Beep beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World. Every day I wake up and I always think of cool new techniques or ideas that I could present on my YouTube channel to help you guys find your sound or develop new techniques that will hopefully spark the fuel in your brain and start the fire and start that song creation process. Now today I wanted to talk a little bit about granular synthesis, and I remember when I first heard of it, I thought it was like some sort of like crazy form of synthesis. Even approaching it seemed a little bit intimidating. I remember watching videos on YouTube about it and going, well, I'm never gonna use this. But in reality, granular synthesis can be really useful even if you're not making complex stuff like Mr. Bill. Even if you're making more simpler genres like tech house, techno, melodic techno, deep house, I find you can still use granular synthesis to recycle a lot of content that you wouldn't have otherwise used. One of the things I find with a lot of producers is that they buy a lot of sample packs, and in some sample packs you will find things like synth loops, bass loops that you never touch because they just never feel yours. You put them in your music, you make a song idea with it, but then you delete it because you're like, well, that wasn't my idea and I don't really vibe with it, blah blah blah. So a lot of times they go heavily unused. So today I wanted to explain granular synthesis for you guys in a tech house scenario, how you can use it to grab those synth loops you don't use from sample packs because they're not your ideas, they're not yours, and turn them into your ideas to utilize them as synth shots, little FX quirks here and there that you can utilize in tech house. So join me in diving into the world of granular synthesis to get those synth loops, those synth shots to good use. As always, guys, if you want to support my channel, best way to do it is at evilsounds.com. I also want to give a huge shout out to those of you guys that support all my work on there. Thanks to you guys, I'm able to teach the stuff I'm actually interested in, as well as, you know, visit beautiful places around the world. I just got back from a sick vacation at Zion National Park in Utah, and I had an amazing time there. But as always, guys, thank you guys for giving me that opportunity, and let's get straight into this tutorial. Alright guys, welcome inside of Ableton. For this tutorial I'm going to be using Granulator 2, but please keep in mind most granular synthesizers work the same way. The difference between them all is just going to be in how they do it, and whether it has like distortion on board or like FM and reverb, delay, granular delay, stuff like that. So essentially you're paying for more features. But at the core of it, you're going to be able to do everything I'm doing with a free Granulator, a third-party one, or even the one we're using. So in order to access Granulator 2, you are going to need Ableton Suite. But if you don't have it, don't fret. You can always just use a free one. And if you really like it, you can choose to either one, upgrade up to Suite to get this and a bunch of other dope instruments and audio effects. Or you can buy a third-party one to mitigate the cost of this if that's all you want. So what I'm going to do, guys, is bring in a sample from the Blacklist Tech House pack that I released this past Friday to show you guys the capabilities and the kind of sounds we can get with this bad boy. What I'm going to do is grab the synth shot first, and we're just going to loop it around here. Now I'm going to play it, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we apply that granular vibe. Okay, so that's how it's going to sound like. Now the synth shot sounds like this. So notice how we don't get that, and that's just because Granulator 2 right now is just acting as a sampler or simpler. We're just playing this area here and looping it over and over again. So granular synthesizers are going to have sampling capabilities. So if you've ever used a sampler, it's probably going to be able to do the same stuff that a sampler can do. The higher you play, the faster it plays. The slower you play, the slower it goes. Okay, you can also change that with the grain size and the key here. When you have the key set to 0, the grain size doesn't move. When it's at 100, it moves with it. But don't worry about that right now. Just want you to understand that part. The higher the frequency you want to play, usually the faster a sampler will play for you. And Granulator 2 is no different than that. Now, you notice here it says grain and you have some hertz. Now, what is the grain for? Well, granular synthesis, guys, is going to split our audio signal up into grain sizes. So this is where you decide how big they are. Now, this is going to play a huge important role because essentially what granular synthesizers are doing is they're modulating the timing. In a normal sampler, we would play from left to right, like just normal. In granular synthesis, we're not going to play like that. Let's say we set it here. You might decide to start the loop here and it goes, okay, 1, 2, but then it's going to bounce all the way back here and play this part and then bounce over here and play this part and bounce over here and play that. So that's what granular synthesizers are going to do, modulate it. And they're going to play at different pitches, different phases of the, again, that just means positioning of the sample. It's that simple. and now we're gonna do it. So we have our sound here. Okay. Now, the moment I apply the spray, now we have granular synthesis. And now you're a nerd, and now you can wear glasses and have a nice little haircut or like a big ass beard. But the moment I play this, you're gonna notice it sounds different. You know, it's all over the place. It's very hectic. Now, notice that when I play, those yellow lines go out of that yellow outcast. So if I put the spray, it just stays in. That just means where we're playing our sound source right at the moment. So if I put that spray up, now we're modulating the positioning. The higher I go with the spray, the more I'm allowed to roam. Okay. Now remember how I said grain sizes determines the size of that. Why is that important? Well, the smaller it is, the faster those things are going to play, so you're going to get more hectic, as you're going to see. So now I can use that to my benefit, because I could do some really dope kind of tech house synth shots that sound very like very fast. So we're going to increase the grain size and just play one shot. And now we get something like so. Let's move it to a more strategic position and increase the. Now let's move more to here and lower that. It's starting to sound more like hardstyle, but you get the idea of it. I could slow it down a little bit more. There we go. Now let's see. Let's try putting other sound sources in here to see what we get. Let's try a bass line, and we're going to put this here. Oh, that one's sounding more interesting. Now let's zoom in on that and put it right there. Lower this. Oh, here's me using it on a vocal. If I lower the pitch or play lower octave, let's increase the frequency. I can definitely get some really weird, like kind of like someone's talking to me from another dimension. You can set how hectic you want with the spray again. Okay. Okay, so I think you got kind of have an idea on how we can do that. Now, if we put an uplifter. Other plays I like to use this with is loops that kind of play a lot of notes at once, because you can do a lot of cool stuff with that. For instance, here we have an ARP that's going to sound like this. Now, if I play it here and I put a bit of spray, you're going to release some hectic stuff. Let's increase. Like those nice little. And then you have that kind of nice future bass sound if that's what you want to. Okay, but you can do a lot of cool stuff with that. So just touching granular synthesis in this aspect, you can do a lot of cool stuff like that, like create those vocals. If you play lower, you can definitely create more dark stuff. With it, if that's what you want, let's increase the. Like so. Now, to the right of that, we do have another important part that I want to discuss in this video. I'm not going to be discussing the LFO. I'm sure many of you guys understand what we can use LFOs for to modulate certain things. But we do have something over here that I sort of consider sort of like a gator in the shaping of the granular, the granulization of this. What I mean by that is here we have STD, right? And we sort of have like this bell-shaped kind of vibe to it. Now, below that, we have the shape, so where we can kind of square this off. All right, so we're squaring that. Now, if I spike it, I make it smaller. And now it sort of sounds like a gator. We can also put it all the way to the back so we don't have any of that. So essentially, there's no time where there's like an empty spot. You're just playing throughout the whole thing. So STD will give you that. And I'm sure it doesn't mean what you think it means. And we're going to go with. Okay. Again, we can spike it so that it's more like. We can also unspike it, which gives us more open. Okay. And we can also shape it, which you know already squares it off. Okay. We do have a rise, and then we have a noise, which sounds very weird. Like kind of like actual noise. Okay. But those are going to be some important things. To the right of that, we do have amplitude modulation. So actual granular synthesis is going to include the shots being played back randomly. Obviously, the timing of stuff is what's modulated, but it's also going to flux it. And what that means is it's going to modulate the volume of each one at different intervals. So you might have one play at max and another one play super quiet, another one play max. I'm not going to really get into that one that much just because, again, that's going to be at your disclosure if that's what you want in your sound. But I feel if you're making techno or tech house, you really want stuff that's going to be there giving you some really dope sounds. So with that being said, let's start to kind of mess around with this more. So let's see, can we get something else in here, like maybe a pluck? And we'll go over here. We're going to increase the grain size there and just zoom in on that. Let's decrease the spread. You kind of see we're going to increase the okay. Now, I want to show you guys this next part here. Now, a lot of people are turned off by the granular because they hit a note and it lasts for a while. And that's just because you have a long release here. If you lower that release down and you you're going to get a bit more control. So this is where you start to turn it into more of a lead. Okay, we're going to increase the spray a bit. And then from there, we go into the best section of this, and this is the FM. Now, the FM is going to give you access to, again, frequency modulation, which is going to increase, essentially, the frequency modulated, and then you're going to be able to set that here. So let's increase the release again, and the and now we're talking. Now we're going to get some badass sound. So here I've put a bass, and now I can show you guys my favorite part of this, and this is the FM section. So here you're going to be able to essentially frequency modulate the sound. So if you put a very low frequency, you're actually going to create a sort of like a vibrato. And sorry for that, I kind of malfunctioned there. Send edit, send.x not working, but you can apply a bit of FM to that. We can do a bit of signal flow EQ here just to get rid of the lows. So let's get some cool stuff. To the sound, I could apply a bit of spray and grain increase. And now I can just find a good spot to create like this kind of a, which to me sounds really goofy. Let's increase the grain back. And again, you can create kind of like these cool things. I've lowered the pitch and now increase. You can also grab sounds with like Foley with a bit of movement and do some cool stuff if you time stretch it enough. Finally, guys, we are going to have access to some other parameters. Like in essence, we are going to have a filter that you can control with an envelope here, which is routed right here. You're going to be able to put FM with an envelope as well here. And finally, you are going to have voices. So let's say you have a long release and you're playing notes and it sounds like a bell. You can change that by just putting this to 1, so that way you don't have multiple sounds. And now okay. But again, you might want to have that if you just want that kind of vibe out of it, if you're making like melodic techno or something like of that sort. The other thing too we have here is like a scan, which I don't really use that much, so I'm not going to talk about it. You can definitely read like the left side of that. But what I find myself using more is, again, the spray, the grain, or essentially here our gator, let's call it that, even though that's not probably the right term for it. And then we're going to have access to that stuff. In today's video, I just wanted to show you guys that this exists, and you can definitely use it to get more unique shots, FM techno shots, tech house kind of weird stuff. Run it through like melodic stuff and have it play randomly if you want to create sort of like a nice kind of abstract melodic atmosphere to your track. Various things. Your creativity is unlimited with this, guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that now you want to use this. And as always, if you want to support my channel, you can head over to evilsounds.com. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another video. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys. Peace out.